This week in Parshas Noach, the Torah tells us clearly why the Rabbi Shalom brought the flood upon this world. Ki mola ha'oretz chamos. The world was full of theft, as the Gemara tells us in Sanhedrin Kufches. Lo nechtam gzar dinam ela la gezel. The verdict was sealed because of stealing. They were stealing. They were taking other people's possessions. And the question is, they were doing so many things. They were guilty of so many different averas. Why this? Why theft? Why gzela? Why was the verdict sealed and the flood brought to the world? Because of stealing. Says the Sholem Eshiv, and he brings a mashal. He says there was a large bird that used to swoop into the water and pick out fish in order to eat them. And one day, as he's about to bite into his prey, he hears the fish saying, Have Rachmanas, I want to continue serving Hashem. And he says, okay, no problem, I'll have Rachmanas on you. And he leaves him be. And then he sees, as he turns away, that this very fish spits out many smaller fish that he himself has eaten. And he said, oh, when it comes to yourself, have Rachmanas. But when it comes to everyone else, you do whatever you want. Therefore, Chazal are telling us that the generation that lived in the time of Noach, of course they wanted to live. And the Rabbi Shalom says, you want me to have Rachmanas? I want to see how you treat other people. And the answer is, they were stealing. When you steal, it means you have no regard for anyone else's possessions. And therefore, when the Rabbi Shalom saw that they were stealing, he said, it's all over. The verdict was sealed, and the flood, was brought to the world. I want to tell you an amazing story that happened here in Yerushalayim. A number of years ago, there was a family living in an apartment building. And unfortunately, they weren't zoicha to make any simchas. Their children were getting older and older. No simchas, nothing. The family above them was zoicha to make simcha after simcha, engagement followed by wedding after engagement followed by wedding. And the family underneath was so distraught. Why is it that they have all the muzzle and we have no muzzle? One day, they get a knock on the door. It's the father of the family from the apartment above. And he sits down with his neighbor and he says, tell me, I have a question for you. You know we're making so many simchas, Baruch Hashem, the Einigluch, the grandchildren are coming along. We need to make an expansion. We need to make an extension. Would you agree to make an extension? The neighbor closes his eyes, thinks, chutzpah. Doesn't this guy have any sensitivity? Does he not realize what I'm going through? I haven't made a single simcha. And he's asking me permission to extend his apartment? He says, I'll think about it. Closes the door, goes to his wife and says, what a chutzpah these people have. They want to make an extension, they want our permission. And the wife said, you know something? Let's be mavata. Allow them to. Maybe it will help us. She says, okay. He goes upstairs, he knocks on the door, he says, you know what, we thought about it, no problem, you can make an extension. So the guy says, thank you so much. I have one more question. In order to make the extension, we cannot build from our apartment, we have to start from yours. Do I have permission to allow the workers to go into your apartment to be able to extend mine? And the guy thinks for a minute, closes his eyes, and thinks back to what his wife said, and he says, you know something, yes. Next morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, there are 9 Arabs standing outside his door with all the equipment, trudging in, trudging out. His apartment looks like a mess. For weeks and weeks, they're going in and out of his apartment, and the whole time he's thinking, why am I doing this? Until eventually the building is complete. They make a Chanukas Habayis. 2 weeks later, the apartment downstairs gets a mazel tov. The daughter gets engaged. What a simcha! They sit by the vault, by the engagement, everything happens so quickly. And the father of the kala turns to the father of the chosen and he says, tell me something, I never even asked you. How did you even hear of our family? So he says, I'll tell you very simple. I live in a building that I have a next door neighbor who's a building contractor. And he came to me and he said something very special. He said, I have a customer of mine that I'm building an extension for. And they have a neighbor. And the neighbors are such amazing people that they're allowing my workers to go in and extend somebody else's apartment. You want to make a shidduch with people like that. And that's how it began. When we learn to concentrate on other people and not ourselves, we're zoicha to so much bracha. This week's parasha teaches us that it's not all about ourselves. The gzeila, the stealing that was going on at that time, was what caused the mabul. We have to be careful. We live in a world with others. The Rebbeinu Shalom wants us to give to others, and then we get the bracha back. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
To listen to more by Rabbi Avi Wiesenfeld, visit